Hello again. Okay, and today, instead of reviewing a book, I'm going to review an author. Okay, it's a little different than what I usually do, but as I stated on my channel page, I've dedicated this YouTube channel to promoting great books that are written by little-known authors, because I feel that there are certain books that are really great that need to be read by more people. Today's author I'm going to go over is Cory Doctorow. Okay, Cory Doctorow isn't as obscure as some of the other writers I've gone over on his site. The reason why I'm going over him today, and I'm doing like an author spotlight, is because I feel that, yeah, he's known, he's won awards, but I don't think he's known enough, okay? I think that he should be known by way more people, and he should probably be a lot more popular than he is. I've noticed over the years that a lot of the best authors were kind of a product of their time, and this has always been the case. Even Shakespeare was a product of his time, back in Renaissance Europe when, plays were the big thing for all people. It was cheap, it was affordable, it was a form of entertainment, okay? Now, Cory Doctorow, he's interesting, and this is why. Because, well, he's a blogger, he's a novelist, short story writer, a journalist. You can find him all over the internet, and I think that's what makes him a product of his time, in that so much of what he does is based upon the internet. Okay, you can find most of his books online for free. He's a major proponent of the Creative Commons organizations. He thinks that we need to reform how we look at digital licensing and whatnot. How I found out about him was really odd. Okay, most of the books I read in the past were books that everybody had known about and everything. Usually my father pointed them out to me when I was a kid. And I'm surprised he hasn't heard of this guy, because he fits the mold of everything everyone I knew growing up would have wanted me to read, and yet nobody's heard of him. How I found out about him was one day I decided at work I wanted to read a classic, okay? So I went to a site that I frequently go to read lots of public domain books that, are typically classic literature. Like, you can read books like Dracula and Wuthering Heights and whatnot on this site. And that site is Gutenberg.org, okay? Check out Gutenberg.org and you can read any kind of a classic. It's cool. So imagine my surprise when I come across a book called Down and Out in the Magic Kingdom by Cory Doctorow, okay? I have this on the screen right there. Okay, this book just blew me away, okay? Because, like I said before, it's a science fiction book, and it's based upon technology, but it's just kind of like taking the next step in the technology we have, and it brings up all these new ideas, like, it's so creative, so original. What Down and Out in the Magic Kingdom was about was basically, it takes place in a society in the future, and it's what you could call a post-scarcity society, okay? There's no starvation, goods are readily available, people don't want for anything, really. Alright? More importantly than that, they have found a way to back up people's brains. Okay, just like you can back up a computer if it crashes, you can now back up your brain in case you die. Okay, and they can also clone you a body and poof, you're back alive again. So as a result of that, there's a sort of immortality now that man has, okay? Death has become obsolete, as Doctorow puts it. And really, it reminds me of the famous question that a lot of high school guidance counselors have asked students in the past, and that was, if you didn't have to worry about money, what would you do with your life? Okay, well, think of it this way. If you didn't have to worry about dying, if you didn't have to worry about starving or going without things or being miserable, what would you do with your life? Well, the main character of this book has always dreamed of living and working at Disneyland, so that's what he does. Okay, and it's all, and the whole stories about him and these other Disneyland employees and their little vendettas against each other and the way they're trying to improve and change Disneyland for their own interests and whatnot. It sounds silly, but it's a really deep book. Okay, other themes that Doctorow goes over in some of his other books, such as Eastern Standard Tribe, is society's interactions with technology. Okay, Eastern Standard Tribe, as the main character in that book puts it, you can find a sense of community on the internet, you know, through groups, forums, chat rooms, whatever. And he describes them as kind of being like tribes, okay? And you got these people all over the world who are part of these online groups, but they start basing their daily cycles, their circadian rhythms, on this other group, okay? So for example, I'm in Iraq right now, okay? And suppose me and all my friends who are in Iraq form a group, and our families want to be part of that group at home. Well then, since we're 7 hours ahead, they might change their schedules, their sleep schedules, eating schedules, everything they do to fit into our time zone, okay? That would mean a 7-hour shift. That means they would be going to bed at weird times, they would be waking up at weird times, eating at weird times, but it's no longer based upon your geographic region, it's based upon a more abstract version of community, you know? Okay. That book also dealt with file sharing. You know, they had this, the main character comes up with this idea that he could, well, what he could do is have it set up to where you could do file sharing from your car, you know, with your car radio, sort of like an extreme version of Napster, but mobile in your vehicle. Okay. Other thing, that's a common theme. You know, one of his other themes is file sharing and whatnot, how it relates to society. You see that a lot in some of his books. Now, I'm going to go back to, he's written other books. I want to go back to Cory Doctorow himself and why I think he needs to be better known. I think he needs to be better known because I'm finding out as I look more into online books, online reading, blogging, etc., that the computer's influence on writing is a major phenomenon, okay? It's something that's going to historically, forever and ever, change literature, I believe, okay? And his voice, as strong as it is, and how he feels and what online writing is, should be known, you know? His ideas of sci-fi and kind of, now, how should I put it? Because I know what I'm going to say here. Okay, think of early science fiction writers, okay? You had people like Arthur C. Clarke, who lived during the space age, okay? They were first coming out with space travel and people were orbiting the Earth. And he came out with ideas such as 2001 Space Odyssey, 2010, you know, Odyssey 2, and all these other books that deal with space travel's effect on society, okay? And then you have other books that dealt with ideas at the time. Just think of A Wrinkle in Time, a Madeline D'Engle. Okay, this dealt with the idea of the Tesseract and what you could call more hypothetical physics. Okay, this was also science fiction at its best, taking what they knew at the time and kind of taking the next step and making an interesting story about it that makes you think. Well, Cory Doctorow does the same thing. He takes ideas such as cloning, file sharing, computers, effects on society and whatnot, and makes a kind of a next step story on this, okay? So this is kind of like a classic of the modern age, okay? This is going to be relevant years from now, and that's really what draws me to a good book, is years from now, will this book still have currency? Will people be able to read this and understand it? And with many of his books, yeah, that's really true. The whole time I was reading it, I kept asking myself, why isn't this required reading? okay? Because, you know, like I keep bringing up books like, you know, 2001 Space Odyssey and Wrinkle in Time and whatnot when I'm describing him. And that's because the whole time I'm reading his books, I find myself kind of reminiscing about these other books I read when I was in middle school and high school that were required reading on the list of books that schools have to teach. Or that they can, I should say. And this kind of fits the mold in a lot of ways, you know? It makes you think. You could write essays for it. You could assign this in a class, you know? Like, write an essay on what you think life would be like if you didn't have to worry about dying. Okay? What social norms and taboos might change in the absence of mortality? You know, or if you never had to worry about, you know, money or resources, how would you live? These are really interesting questions that require thought, I believe. You know, and you can write so much on it. Okay, I understand in a lot of districts, you know, it's hard to bring a new book onto the curriculum. A lot of times you have to write up a proposal and it goes before a board, and a lot of times a lot of parents get involved and they want to complain because they think they know more than you. And yeah, but I think this needs to be taught more, okay, at least on the college level, because I find that too often contemporary writers tend to be left out of our education system, okay, and I feel that it kind of makes people think that there hasn't been any good literature written in a while, okay, because I mean, you ask most high school kids these days, what is a very good modern writer? And I'm not talking like pulp, you know, novels. I'm just talking actual novels that have a lot of currency. Everybody could enjoy something out of it and have academic value. Most people will not be able to tell you anything. So I think we need to do a push to bring him out, especially since he's a great example of writing in the computer age. So that's about all I have to say about Cory Doctorow. You should really check him out. I'll be sure to post his website, some of the blogs he works on, and other such places where you can find his books. It's a must-read. This is one of the few books I'll actually give a 5-star rating to instead of a 4, because, well, at least Down and Out in the Magic Kingdom, that one gets a 5-star rating for sure. It's one of the best books I've ever read, so please check it out. And, well, that's about all I have.